The frontier station floated like a slow lantern above the blue desert planet. Docking alarms hummed, and red lines chased along the bay floor. Engineers moved fast, but the human named Raffi moved calm. He checked his scanner, checked the seals, and breathed steady. He had fixed broken doors, broken pipes, and broken trust on this station. Today, he would face something new. A bond signed by people far away. The alien envoy ship locked into place with a heavy kiss of metal. Heat wavered in the air, and the smell of ion burns spread out. From the hatch stepped Narai, a warrior noble from the Kar clan. Her armor shone like storm glass, and her eyes were clear and cold. She carried herself like a blade that had never bent. Behind her walked a scribe with a slate and a thin silver pen. The scribe read the pact in a dry voice. Duty bond enacted. Reproduction priority. Intimacy required for alliance security. Station officers nodded like this was a normal repair ticket. Narai stood without fear, ready to complete an order. Raffi watched her face and felt a small ache in his chest. She was strong, but she looked very alone inside that strength. Raffi stepped forward and spoke in a voice made for gentle machines. "No one will touch you without your clear yes." The bay grew quiet. Even the fans seemed to listen. Narai turned to him with a frown of confusion. "It is duty, not choice," she said. Raffi shook his head once, slow and sure. "Here it is. Choice first, duty second." Whispers passed through the crowd like wind through wire. Some thought the human was soft. Some thought he was brave. Raffi raised his hand, open and empty. Like an offer, not a demand. He set 3 rules in front of everyone. Clear yes before any closeness. Either can stop at any time. A safe word ends all pressure. Narai studied his hand and the rules, as if they were tools from an unknown craft. A siren screamed from vent row, sharp and hot. Smoke rolled out under the doors, and a bulkhead slammed shut. "Sabotage," someone shouted, then boots pounded and orders flew. Raffi guided people toward the emergency route. Palms open, not grabbing, only pointing. Narai moved beside him like a shield that could also think. Together, they pulled a child from the smoke and sealed a leak with tape foam. In the haze, Raffi noticed a tiny blinking lens near the ceiling strut. A watcher was recording the chaos, the bond, and every word. He filed the fact in his mind the way he filed loose screws. Important, small, dangerous if ignored. When the siren fell to a tired cry, the bay returned to a shaky calm. Narai looked at Raffi with a new kind of attention. Not duty, not yet trust, but something awake. They reached their shared quarters, simple and bright with station light. On the doorframe, Raffi found heat scoring, a fresh burn he had not left. Someone had tested this lock during the alarm. He showed the mark to Narai, and she rested too. Fingers on the metal. Her voice was low. "This is not random. Someone wants pressure. Not choice." A chime sounded, and a sealed clan message slid into the wall slot. Narai opened it and read the command with a still face. "Complete the duty bond. Tonight, or the treaty fails and war returns." Raffi met her eyes and spoke softly. "We can face war, but we will not break you." Narai closed the message and stood between fear and pride like a soldier on a narrow bridge. The station lights dimmed for night cycle, and the small lens across the hall blinked once. Then twice. The choice would not wait, and the whole station seemed to hold its breath. Asterisk night cycle wrapped the station in a soft blue glow. The sealed clan message still lay on the table like a heavy stone. Narai stood straight, but her shoulders carried old orders and new fear. Raffi brewed tea and kept his hands easy and visible. He spoke slowly. "We can ask for 7 days. Wow. We can ask for space." Narai answered. "The treaty says tonight. My clan says tonight. My training says duty." Raffi nodded. The charter says persons are not property. Your yes matters here. She tasted the words like a foreign spice and did not spit them out. He placed 3 cards on the table. Yes, no, stop, he said. We practice with these before any closeness, even a hand touch. Narai looked at the cards as if they were new weapons. She picked up no and held it between finger and thumb. Rafi reached out his hand, palm open, then paused and waited. She whispered, no. And he lowered his hand without a blink. Her breath left her chest like a door finally opening. Again, she said, testing the edge of the word like metal. They moved to the small exercise mat by the window. Rafi taught a steady breath. In 4-4, hold for 2. Out for 6, Narai matched the count, a warrior finding rhythm in quiet air. He showed a simple drill. Step forward, touch palm, step back, release. At every touch, he asked with his eyes, and at every release, he proved control was shared. Narai felt her heart slow from drum to tide. This is not weakness, she said. This is a different kind of strength. Rafi smiled. Consent is a strength that protects both sides. They walked the maintenance ring garden where small lamps fed pale leaves. Narai watched a glass tank of lightfish turn as one bright ribbon. Rafi said, they move together because they do not collide. They read each other, Narai nodded. My clan trains collision, not reading. A service drone word passed and blinked a friendly code. She asked, why do you treat me like a person and not a task? He answered, because you are one, even if no one taught you to expect it. Her mouth softened. The armor at her eyes loosened a little, back in quarters. They shared bread and fruit with simple calm. Narai told him about first battle drills and the medal she never wore. The medal felt like a chain, she said. The applause felt like orders. Rafi told her about a sister who left the station to paint nebulae. She sends me colors I did not know existed, he said. Narai listened like someone drinking water after a long march. A soft chime buzzed, and a station news clip flashed on the wall. Cropped footage showed Rafi saying, no one will touch you, then it cut. The headline scrolled. Human engineer rejects alliance bond. Rumors marched through the comment stream like, Ansneri's jaw tightened. This will shame my clan. This will force their hand. Rafi opened a console and traced the clip's source. He found a relay tied to security logs he should not see. He did not break the lock. He only marked the path for later proof. Someone wants pressure, he said. Someone wants speed, not truth. Narai placed her palm near his, not touching, but close. By choice, Rafi drafted a short statement for the council screen. Bond talks continue within charter rights. Consent first, treaty intact. He showed it to Narai and waited. She read it twice and spoke. I agree, send it. The statement went out like a small lantern into a windy night. For a moment, the comment stream slowed, then the wind returned, outside. Their door, the tiny lens across the hall, blinked again. Rafi set a paper sticker over it that read, Record with honor, then laughed at himself. The next morning, docking beacons flared white along the rim. A gray cruiser slid into view, long as a winter shadow. A message stamped the corridor speakers with an iron voice. Elder Sail arrives for inspection and a public bonding trial. Narai's fingers curled. Not in fear, but in decision. She looked at Rafi and said, I will not be forced, I will be heard. Crowds began to gather as drums rolled from the great hall, between duty and desire. A path had opened. Ah! And now everyone would watch where she stepped. The great hall opened like a silver shell around a circle of light. Crowds filled the tiers, officers in dark coats, traders in bright scarves. Children on shoulders, drums weighted in a ring, small and deep, skin tight, sticks raised, Elder Sail stood at the far end, tall and still as a blade. Warden Keth hovered near the control dais with 2 guards and a flat smile. Rafi and Narai entered side by side, not touching. Steps matched by choice. The scribe read the rules in a voice that cut, clean, and thin. Bonding trial begins. Heartbeat match, steady breath. Truth under drum. Consent is spoken or withheld. No pressure, no penalty for refusal. Treaty remains in negotiation. The charter stands. Some in the crowd cheered. Some hissed. Most held there. Breath, Narai felt her pulse in her throat like a steady hammer. Rafi felt heat in his palms and kept them open and calm. They took their places on mirrored circles of light. The first drum tapped a slow beat. Like a footstep on a long road matched the beat. Said the scribe, "Do not lead, do not push." Rafi listened and set his breath to the sound. Narai listened and let the sound settle into her chest. Their eyes met, not as challenge, but as navigation. The second drum joined. Higher and faster, like a bird's wing. Hold each other's gaze for 10 breaths. Said the scribe, "If trust bends, look away." Narai's training said, "Win the stare, hold forever, break the other." Rafi's lesson said, "See the person, not the contest, blink without fear." They blinked naturally and still did not break the gaze. Something eased in the center of the room. A small knot untying. The third drum spoke. A question drum. Each strike asked one truth. "Answer," said the scribe. Short and plain. No story, no excuse. "What do you fear?" the drum asked. Being made a tool again, Narai said. "What do you want?" the drum asked. "Safety for her," Rafi said. "And the right to wait." Murmurs ran the tears like a soft storm. Kill. Elder Sale lifted a hand and the hall went quiet. "Consent phase," said the scribe. "If both wish to begin the bond, step forward." Rafi did not move. He kept his feet like anchors in clear sand. He said, "I will not step unless she speaks yes." Naray's breath came slow, steady. Counting the drums inside her ribs, she looked at the crowd, at her elder, at the cameras tucked like insects. She looked back at Rafi and saw not a door forcing her through, but a door waiting open. She spoke. "I am not ready. I choose to wait." Gasps rose, a few cheers. A few curses, a rip in the old cloth. Elder Sale's face did not change, but his fingers curled at his side. Warden Keth's smile sharpened, like a wire pulled tight. Lights flickered once, twice, then dimmed to a smoky dusk. The drums fell silent. The control dais beeped a dull alarm. A steel moan rolled through the hall as exit doors slid shut and locked. Emergency panels refused commands. Keth tapped a code and looked surprised. A hush spread, fear thin and quick, like ice on glass. Rafi stepped near Narai, hands open, voice level. We moved together. From the ceiling grill, a tiny lens blinked red, then steady, recording everything. Narai's warrior senses drew a map in her mind. Vents, ducts, weak seams. "Someone planned this," she said. "Someone wants panic. Someone wants to break our will." Rafi nodded and scanned the dais for a manual release. All eyes turned to Elder Sale as he raised his hand to speak, before he could. A blast cracked the far service door and smoke poured in. Guards shouted orders that drowned in static like rain on metal. Narai took one step toward the smoke and another toward Rafi. Then stopped. Her voice was clear. "We will not be hurted. We will choose our path." The fire alarms howled. The cameras stared, and the crowd surged like a living wave at the edge of the light. A shadow moved with purpose toward the power trunk. The trial had become a trap, and the first choice would be how to survive it. Asterisk smoke curled like gray ropes from the broken service door. The great hall lights shook and burned low. People coughed and held cloth to their faces. Rafi scanned the ceiling and found the nearest vent map. Near Eye watched the crowd and counted exits blocked by fallen panels. They moved together without grabbing, only clear hand signals and short words. Rafi pointed to a maintenance hatch hidden behind a banner. He knelt, popped the cover, and showed the metal rung ladder. Narai held the space, calm and tall, guiding. Families in small groups use the ladder. Keep left hand on rail. Pass down. No rush, she said. Her voice cut through panic like a steady drum. Children went first, then elders, then traders with tool bags. A guard tried to push past and shove people forward. Narai lifted a palm. Stop. No forcing. Follow the line. The guard met her eyes and stepped back without a fight. Rafi crawled into the shaft to test the air. It tasted like hot dust, but it moved, which meant a path. He came back out with a quick nod. They slipped into the shaft last to keep the hall from turning wild. The metal walls rang with far thuds like hollow thunder. Rafi's small lamp drew a thin path of white on the bolts. He spoke low, 2 turns, then a cross duct. Then the power trunks. Narai listened and mapped the route in her head. A safe word, she said, just in case we need to stop fast. Rafi smiled even in the smoke. Lantern, he said. She repeated it once, lantern, and felt steadier. They reached the cross duct and heard voices below. The words were sharp and fast. Cut the feed. Lock. The doors. Flood a little smoke. Then open when I say. Narai and Rafi shared a look in the half-light. This was not an accident. This was a hand on a lever. Rafi eased a grill aside and dropped into a narrow crawl space above the control room. Through a seam, he saw Warden Keth at a console. Beside him stood a tech with nervous hands and a jammer. Case Keth's tone was smooth. We release them after the Elder speaks. Then we publish the human's refusal clip. Alliance will force duty to preserve face. The tech opened the jammer case and checked a blinking module. Serial tags flashed in the dim, and Rafi quietly took a photo on his wrist pad. Narai watched. The door behind Keth and counted 2 guards. She signed a plan with simple motions. Distract, slip, pull the power trunk, then run. Rafi nodded and moved to a side panel marked with hazard stripes. He flipped the cover and found a data tap spliced into the security fiber. A red patch LED carried copies of everything to a private buffer. The buffer label read Keth AUX, plain. As a stamp lantern, Narai whispered, and Rafi froze. A third guard had stepped into the room with a stun rifle. Narai dropped through the grill like a silent anchor and landed clean. She swept the rifle aside with her forearm and pinned the guard without breaking bones. Rafi yanked the red patch LED and pocketed the tap. Keth spun, eyes wide for only a second, then a smile like cold wire returned. Alarms stopped, doors in the great hall unlocked, and new air rushed in. Keth pressed a wall button and flooded the control room with bright light. He raised his voice for the cameras. Security, detain the human saboteur. He is destroying evidence. Guards pulled their aim toward Rafi as the tech hid the jammer behind a cabinet. Narai stepped between rifles and Rafi with her shoulders square. Her voice was a calm blade. Stand down, we will present our proof to the council. Keth gestured to the ceiling lens. We have all the proof we need, he said, on his signal. Screens in the hall lit with a clipped montage. Rafi near cables. Smoke. Panic. Narai dropping from a vent like an attacker. The crowd gasped. And the story bent hard in the wrong direction. Rafi lifted his hands, palms open, and spoke steady. We can show the splice, the tap, the tags. Let us speak. Keth's smile grew thin, and he gave the order to take Rafi. As Elder Sale's boots began to ring down the corridor. Elder Sale entered the control room like a winter blade. Cold and certain, guards spread to the corners. Rifles low but ready, eyes hard. Warden Keth pointed at Rafi with a neat finger. Saboteur, detain him. Narai stepped between the rifles and Rafi shoulders square, helmet under her arm. She spoke clear. I invoke warrior right of inquiry under the treaty. The room paused. Because that right meant evidence before action, Sale's mouth thinned, and the scribe checked the charter screen. The words lit plain. Inquiry grants 12 hours of safe movement for both parties. Keth tried to argue. Smoke, panic, danger. But the claws held like welded steel. Rafi kept his hands open and his voice steady. We will present proof to the council. Sale nodded once, slow and sharp. 12 hours. Then the bond or the return to clan custody. The timer began to tick on. Every public display counting down in cold white light. They walked out under 1,000 watching eyes. Some faces angry, some hopeful, some just tired of orders. A medic passed Nerai a canteen and whispered, "Be careful, the feeds are cut strange." A junior guard palmed Rafi, a spare pass chip. "You did not do this, sir." I can tell. Nerai felt the station tilt, not in gravity, but in trust. People were choosing sides and counting the cost in silence in their small quarters. They sealed the door and set a privacy field. Rafi laid the stolen data tap on the table like a hot coal. Serial tags blinked. Keth Ox, buffer full. Last sync 5 minutes before the smoke. Nerai stood watch at the peephole with a soldier's patience. Rafi copied the cache into 3 drives and wrote a simple checksum note. "Truth should be hard to break," he said, "and harder to erase." They opened the files and found clipped edits timed to a press release. Headlines: Human refuses pact. Station in chaos. Alliance must enforce duty. Payment logs showed small transfers to a shell account. A message draft to Elder Sale promised. Bond complete equals stabilized vote. Nerai's jaw worked once. Twice, then steadied. "This is not honor," she said. "This is trade, dressed as tradition." Rafi traced the relay path to a security node outside Keth's office. He wrote a short script to record every file touch and mirror it to 3 public boards. If they purge, the mirror will show the hand. He said. Nerai put her palm over his. Heartbeat, without touching, a warrior's pledge of guard. "You work. I hold the door," she said, and the room felt stronger outside. The timer slid under 11 hours, then 10, like a slow knife. They met allies in the garden ring under pale lamps. The medic, the junior guard, a traitor who had seen Keth's tech carry a jammer case. Short statements recorded, plain words, no drama, only facts. Rafi tagged each account with time and place. And a quiet thanks. Nerai spoke to 3 elders by secure channel and said, "I request witness, not rescue." 2 elders refused. 1 listened and asked for the proof at dawn cycle. Sale held a press call in the Great Hall with banners high. He spoke of duty and alliance and the old ways. He said Nerai would be honored within her clan. If the station could not guide her, he never used the word choice, and the cameras loved his shine. Keth stood behind him like a shadow that thought it was a pillar. The crowd split into applause and hard silence. A line down the middle like a crack, back in the control spine. Rafi and Nerai sent the first bundle to the council node. The checksum glowed green. The mirror links armed themselves. Rafi exhaled and let his shoulders drop for the first time in hours. Nerai took his hand for one breath and let it go by choice, not duty, she said. Not fear, not performance. Just a human thing I wanted to do. He nodded, a little stunned, a little grateful, and very awake. Then the station shuddered with a deep metallic groan. Windows along the rim went dark as a long shadow covered the view. The clan cruiser slid, close enough to show seams in its armor. Docking claws unfolded like iron flowers and touched the station's skin. A voice rolled through every corridor. Transfer the warrior to clan custody in 1 hour. Treaty clause invoked. The timer on the walls reset to 60 minutes, and the claws clamped down with a hungry click. Asterisk, the clan cruiser's claws pressed into the station's skin like iron thumbs. The public timer ticked down from 60 minutes in cold white numbers. People gathered again in the great hall, drawn by fear and by hope. Banners hung heavy, cameras blinked, and the drums waited like held breath. Elder Sale stood in the center circle with a calm face and a sharp voice. Warden Keth drifted near the console like a shadow that wanted to be a wall. Rafi and Narai entered side by side, not touching. Steps matched by choice, the scribe announced. Inquiry window remains. Council will hear evidence, then hear the bond. Sale raised a hand and spoke smooth. Duty first, the clan will accept the human after the bond. He never used the word consent. He never looked at Narai as a person. Rafi kept his hands open and his voice steady. The charter says consent before. Closeness, always. A wave of murmurs rolled the tears. Like a small storm finding shape, Sale turned to Narai and wrapped his words in ribbon and iron. For the honor of your people, complete the bond now. And the treaty stands bright. Narai felt the old training rise, a hard shell built by orders and praise. She let it rise, watched it, and then chose to put it down. Her voice carried clear. I will not be forced, I will be heard, I will be safe. Some cheered, some hissed, some simply stood very still and listened. Keth tapped a code and filled the screens with a new edit. Clips of smoke, panic, Rafi, near cables, Narai dropping from a vent like a threat. The headline scrolled, Human Stalls Alliance. Warrior in danger of shame. Rafi did not flinch. He lifted a small drive and spoke. We mirrored your tap. We saved your tags. He held the stolen red lead like a bright string in his hand. The junior guard and the medic stepped forward to witness. Simple words, plain times, clear places. Sale's eyes narrowed a fraction. A crack in winter glass, he said. Even if there was confusion, duty remains. The old way remains, Rafi answered. The old way ends where harm begins, and harm begins without. A true yes, silence thickened. Then Narai took one step into the circle. Her shoulders were square, her hands steady. Her eyes clear like new water. She looked at Rafi, not at the cameras. And she spoke to the room. I was trained to be a tool. I was praised for obeying. I was never asked what I wanted. Here, I learned a new word. A small word that carries a life. The word yes, yes, is not a duty. Yes is not fear. Yes is not a debt. Yes is a door I open myself. Yes is a path I choose. I am not ready to say yes to the bond tonight. And that is still a yes to my own life. I say yes to time, yes to safety, yes to learning desire without pain. The hall shook with the force of quiet, a deeper sound than shouting. Children listened like they were hearing the map of a safer future. Sale lifted his hand for order. His voice turned hard steel. Then the clan invokes custody clause. Warriors, retrieve Narai for re-education. Guards stepped forward, rifles raised, boots sharp against the floor. Keth smiled thin and signaled the dais to mute civilian mics. Lantern Narai said softly, and? Rafi stilled his breath. He nodded once and tapped his pad. The mirrors went live on 3 public boards. Screens split, showing the Ketho tag, the splice, the jammer serials, the payment trail. Crowd murmurs became a hard river, not chaos, but power with direction. 2 elders on remote feed spoke at last. Charter priority over clan custom, stand. Down until vote, Sale's jaw worked, and his guards hesitated in the friction of new law and old fear. Keth snapped. Take the human then. Break the stall. Make an example. Rifles shifted from Narai to Rafi. Red sights bloomed like small wounds on cloth. Narai stepped in front of him without touching, armor bright under the hall lamps. Her voice was a calm blade. You will not take him. You will not take my choice. The timer hit 10 minutes. The cruiser. Claws tightened and the lights trembled. A single stun round cracked the air like lightning through dry wood, and everything moved at once. Ask ChatGPT. The stun round hit a ceiling lamp and burst in a white ring. Lights snowed down, people ducked, and the hall filled with sharp echoes. Nehrai slid in front of Rafi like a door of living steel. Rafi pulled a fallen child behind a bench and kept his hands open. "Lantern," she said, and the words steadied them both. He breathed once and kept his voice calm and clear. The junior guard moved first and kicked a rifle aside. The medic snapped a smoke stick to block the red sights. Rafi reached the console and pulled the manual cut on the dais feed. Screens flickered from Keth's edit to the mirror boards he. Head-armed, the Ketho tag glowed across the hall like a bright stamp. The payment trail scrolled in clean lines. Time, sender, account, amount. As lunged for the jammer case and tried to kill the signal. Nehrai met him halfway and turned his wrist without breaking bone. He swung a knee. She shifted her stance. He lost balance and pride together. Guards closed in, but saw the mirror feeds and slowed with doubt. Rafi lifted the red patch lead for all to see. "This is your wire," he said, "and this is your cut, Elder." Sale raised his hand, and for a moment the room froze. He spoke low and cold. "Custody now. We will sort this later." Two elders on the wall feed answered in one measured voice. "Charter first. Pause custody. Vote at dawn with full record." The crowd heard the word pause and let out one long breath. The cruiser claws eased half a finger from the station's skin. Keth shouted for arrests and pointed at Rafi and Nehrai, but his tech stepped back and held up empty hands. "I did the splice." "Under orders," the tech said, voice shaking but plain. He showed a message thread where Keth promised protection and praise. Sale's eyes narrowed like winter stone under sun. "This is shame," he said, and even his voice seemed tired of iron. Council members arrived from side doors with portable seals. They scanned the mirrors, the tags, the logs, and the witness clips. A vote line appeared in the air like a clean bridge. Station policy: consent before bond. No penalties for refusal. Investigation into sabotage. The seals flashed green, and the text locked into law. People stared at the words like they were seeing a new sunrise. Keth tried one last run through a service hatch. Nehrai moved like quiet lightning and stood in his path. She did not strike. She only held out a cuff and waited. He looked at the Camerson, lowered his eyes and his fight. The junior guard clicked the cuff and led him away without glory. The medic picked glass from a child's sleeve and smiled in relief. Sale faced Nehrai with a long silence in his jaw. He spoke at last. "The clan will honor the charter here." He turned to the hall. "The old way bends today, but our people will live straighter for it." He gave no smile, but he gave a bow of respect. The cruiser claws lifted from the hull and folded like sleeping iron. The timer vanished from the walls. Like a bad dream waking, when the noise faded, Nehrai and Rafi stood in the soft light. She took one step closer, not pushed, not pulled, simply willing. She set her palm over his heartbeat and spoke slow and sure. Yes to walking together. Yes to time. Yes to learning without fear. Not to satisfy a treaty. Not to satisfy a crowd. But because I choose it. Rafi's eyes warmed, and he placed his palm to meet hers with care. They signed a partnership bond that named consent in every line. It promised space for desire to grow like a careful garden. It named trust as the first door and choice as the only key. The council stamped it. The elders witnessed it. The hall stood quiet and whole. Outside, the station lights steadied and the garden ring glowed pale and kind. Children drew a sign that said, "Choice first," and taped it to the hall door. That night, they walked to the maintenance ring, where the stars looked close. Nehrai pointed to a cluster that shaped a spear and then a flower. Raffi laughed soft and said he had never seen the flower before. She answered, "It was always there. We only learned how to look." They stood with fingers lightly linked, not claimed, not owned, simply chosen. Above them, the stars kept their patient watch, and the station learned a new way to love.